Hey, Wes here, Airstream Wanderings. Thanks for joining me today. A little quick quiz question for you. Say I have two pots. One has a 5-inch diameter, the other has a 10-inch diameter. Is the 10-inch diameter really twice as large as the smaller pot? Well, the answer may surprise you, is no. Although the diameter may be twice as large, but the pot itself is actually quite a lot larger. And what I've seen as I've built bigger and bigger pots, it keeps using more clay than I would expect it to use. So I decided to put a pencil to it and figure out how much clay I actually need to make a pot. If that interests you, please come along. Well, so you're not in suspense. If I have two pots, one is 5 inches and the other is 10 inches, the reality is that the 10-inch pot takes 400% or 4 times more clay than the 5-inch pot, even though the diameter is only twice as large. Or another example would be if I have a 10-inch pot and I want to make one just 1 inch bigger, 1 inch. So from 10 inches to 11 inches, that's a 10% growth in diameter, but it's actually more than a 20% growth in the actual amount of clay that is needed to build it. Well, in order to determine how much clay I needed, I have to think about a shape, and I decided that the easiest shape would be like a hemisphere. I know that most pots are a variety of shapes, but a hemisphere is something that you can calculate and measure fairly easily. And a hemisphere is just a sphere that is cut in half. I also made the assumption that the pot would be 1/4 of an inch thick, and I am talking about with wet clay here. Well, I'm not a great mathematician, but I do have access to the internet, and so if you just do a search for calculating the measurements, surface area, volume, and so on of any geometric shape, including hemispheres, that is all out there. And that's what I did, looking at a variety of different diameters for the bowl, and then made a chart. And so let me show you the chart and how it all works. This is the formula for determining the volume of a hemisphere, but again, just go to the internet and look for these formulas. There's ways that will do it for you automatically. And then I also looked at having a thickness of the bowl of 1/4 inch. In this graph, it shows the amount of clay needed to make a pot. On the bottom line, shows the possible diameter, starting as small as 5 inches and ramping up to 12 inches. And then the top line shows the amount of clay needed per cubic inch. And you can see that it ramps up really quickly, so you need more and more clay as you get to have a larger pot. And in this graph, it shows the amount of clay you need by weight. And what I did is I portioned out some clay, 1-inch cubes, and find out that wet clay for me weighs about 1.1 ounce per cubic inch. And so I can see here that a 5-inch diameter pot requires 10 ounces of clay, a 10-inch diameter pot requires 40 ounces of clay, and so on. And even though the diameter ramps up at an even rate, the amount of weighted of clay goes up rather quickly. So what you might want to do is do a screenshot of this if that would be helpful to you, so you can determine potentially the amount of clay you need. But this would show the exact amount of clay. You probably are going to need a little bit more. Let's test out our formula. My calculations say that a hemisphere with an 8-inch diameter should use 26 ounces of clay. So I'm going to measure that out and see if I can use this bowl as a pookie and make a hemisphere that's pretty close to 8 inches. Let's give it a go. So 26 ounces is the same as 1 pound, 10 ounces. And so I'm almost there. It's pretty close. So we'll see if this amount of clay will make our 8-inch hemisphere pot. I have a couple of sticks that they're pretty close to 1/4 of an inch thick. So I will use those to help measure out this slab, get it the right thickness. All right, let's see if we can get this in the pookie. This clay is really on the soft side, but we'll see if we can get it in there. All right, here is my bowl. It's supposed to be a hemisphere. It's not too bad. And when you measure it, or when I measure it, the diameter is really close to 8 inches. The height of it is really close to 4 inches. I think it's pretty close to 1/4 of an inch thick. This is the amount of clay that I have left. So that tells me that the calculations work. Well, this experiment yielded some little bit surprising results for me. I knew that it seemed like it was taking more and more clay, but I didn't realize that it ramped up that quickly. And I'm not always going to be making hemispheres, but it will help me in estimating the amount of clay that I need for any given project, and it might help you as well. And what I will do in the description down below is put a little chart or a table showing the amount of clay needed for a given project. Keep in mind that this is wet, mixed up clay, not dry clay. So thanks for joining me today. Always appreciate that. Especially love those comments, the thumbs up, the subscriptions. And until next time, this is Wes with Airstream Wanderings, wishing you health, happiness, peace, and love. Take care. Bye-bye.